Welcome to the conference. So, without any further ado, let's get started. Our intro React Accessibility Essential for Developers. How to make website accessible for everyone. So yeah, little about me. My name is Raihan Nismara. I'm from Indonesia. I work as a software developer, but right now, currently, I'm assigned to front-end devs at Telkom Indonesia. And I've been working in IT industry in web development more than 5 years right now. Yeah, and I've been specialization in my skill in front end. But you can also follow along with my links, my social media. I have a podcast as well on YouTube. You can listen. There's a code FKS, so you can follow me on the LinkedIn, Instagram, or check my website as well. But yeah, that's about me. Let's keep moving. So today's agenda, the topic that we're going to cover up is this is the main topic. So there's 6 main topic, but also each main topic has a subtopic that we're going to cover up as well. One is what is accessibility, how user navigate a website. The third is like accessibility principles. What are the benefits to all of this and how you measure the iOS web for accessibility? We're going to see in real action. Of course, in this topic, we're going to do with React. And then we're going to also see how test your components to pass in accessibility aspect. All right. So let's keep moving. Let's dive in. So first thing first, what is web accessibility? Okay. And what is the accessibility itself? When you're saying the accessibility, you can also like pronounce ALI or A11Y. Basically, it's number name. Number best word. Yeah. If you count it, there's character 11 and so some Kubernetes like K8 and also internal is like I18. You can also check other things in number name, but the accessibility itself has the meaning of the quality of being able to be entered or to be accessed by the public, including people with disability. So when it meets web, it combines to something like web accessibility is when you tooling, when you design, when you develop your website so that everyone can access, can and use your website, including people with disabilities. More specifically, they can like perceive, understand, navigate, interact, even contribute to the web itself. There's some quotes from Mary Petradapo. She was like one director at IBM back then. For people without disabilities, technology make things easier. For people with disabilities, technology make things possible. If we take a look in these modern days, yeah, technology make things easier for us, for people without disabilities. For people with disabilities, technology make things possible even better. In the past, we never thought that we can get those things, but like now, it's always better when it was designed for disabled, then it also make better for everyone else. For example, in real life case, the story behind the curb cut and sidewalk. So it was back then, it was back to the American veteran in World War II. They have back to the country. Some of them end up in wheelchair, so they have to walk with wheelchairs and walking stick. But when they want to try to go to the road, there's no like curb cut, so they can walk or entering to the access the sidewalk. Okay, they need to go to the edge of the road to find like ramps or something to lift out their weights. And then they wanted the fairness, so some architect designed like the curb cut in the middle, right on the road. So when it was designed for disabled, it also made things better for everyone. If you had stroller or bike with you, you can just leave off your things with you along the way with going to the sidewalk. Not you don't have to go to the edge anymore to find the ramps or something. And the other real life case is the talking calculator. It was meant for people with vision problems. And then if we see the application right now, it was like inspired from the talking calculator. You can right now go to somewhere without having know the path of the place itself. You can just guide it by some navigation in your pocket, in your phone, right? Because there's the same concept, the same technology they use, which is text to speech or voice to text system, voice to text concept. The other thing is the caption, closed caption or subtitles. Right now, you can just easily understand how people talk or speak in the contents because you actually turn on the closed caption and you understand without any hardly to know it anymore. So how we get involved with this community, what we can do about it, how can we make the world a better place? But we need to understand first how actual user navigating the website, right? Before we jump into how we build the website can accessible to all the user. We need to also first thing first, we need to know how actual user are navigating their website. First, the answer is to this using the assistive technology and adaptive strategy. When you're saying about the adaptive strategy, it's more to the features on your web application. You have zoom in, zoom out many settings on your application. You can change the font color, font size setting, etc. It's like more strategy of how your website approach to the problems. And when you're saying assistive technology, it's more combining of the software and the hardware itself. All right. So like there's hardware like keyboard, touchscreen readers, even more expensive device like zip and pop device. Yeah. So many hardware, so many devices that can be used for disabled people. But the common things that they face in real life case, the common problem they face is lack of keyboard accessibility in the website. So when they're trying to navigating the website, especially for physical disability cases, the convenience, the easiest device for them, which is the keyboard. But in the field of reality, keyboard is not fully supported by the website. It just few percent I know in the world website that can be accessed by the keyboard. So for example, they want to navigating the website, but the keyboard is not functionally correctly in those websites. The other common problem they face is lack of visible focus. The keyboard is there working, but they couldn't see which the item or which the page or which the button they currently hovering on, or yeah, they couldn't see which the focus they right now stay. Okay. And the other thing is the focus order. Maybe the focus is not quietly correct. Like when they trying to hovering or navigating to button A and then the focus is in the button B or something like that. So this is quite a problem, right? And the other problem is for visual and physical disabilities is the same. The keyboard accessibility, like accessible focus and focus order. So here's this example of the expressive device that or assistive technology that I mentioned before is zip and pop device. The other thing is physical and visual disabilities. Also, they face the same problem, but right now there's some additional, which is the unclear links and buttons. And then the second one is the illogical focus order, and for reversibility focus, and last but not least is the missing the alternative contents. Okay, so for people with problem in their visual, they couldn't find alternative contents for like their images, for their text, or for their voice. So this is a problem for them when they want to see the image, but the website couldn't tell what is in the image because they missing the alternative, which is a problem. So the other thing is physical and visual disabilities. This case is completely blind. The problem is the same like previous, but there's some additional like unclear structure. Maybe the structure of the website is not fully correct, which is also a problem. The other thing is for low vision people, the common problem they face is the font size is too small or maybe too big, and the contrast on the color is too poor, and also they relying on the color. So maybe like the color is not good when you see it with your eyes or something, and also the animation and the moving around is like too fast or something, like so many animation. So it's also a problem. The other case is the hearing disabilities with people with problem in their hearing disabilities. Maybe the common problem they face is there's no closed caption, there's no subtitle, no transcript, even in the higher level. Maybe there's no sign language in your contents of the website. The people with the hearing disabled cannot understand about the topic that you're trying to communicate or inform. Last but not least, the case of hearing and cognitive learning disabilities is also the same. So people with problem in their cognitive and learning disabilities, maybe the closed caption, subtitle, even in the higher language, sign language is not there and not in your content, which is a problem. So we need to fix it. How are we going to fix it? We can fix it and taking real action in the next slide. So we need to also see first the principle of the accessibility itself. After we already know what kind of those problems, we also can break it down to this principle as well. So the principle of accessibility, there's 4 principles. One is perceivable. The first is perceivable. The second one is operable, and the third one is understandable. The fourth is the robust. So we're going to explain it one by one. What is the perceivable? The perceivable mean the information of your content can be presented in different ways, like in braille, different text size, text to speech, all works on different device or ways to present. For example, that we saw earlier is if your user can see the image, you need to provide the alternative content for those people. For example, if you missing the alternative content in image, you can also add some alternative text to your images. And the other thing is if your content on the website is time-based media, you can also add some transcript or subtitle, closed caption to the content. So the people with hearing disabled can understand what's actually content you're trying to inform to there. Okay, today. The other thing is adaptable content. So make sure your website can be adaptable to its content. Like the header will be always there, and the content can be scrollable. Okay, yeah. The point is this content shouldn't be losing without any information. And the other thing is make sure you have distinguishable content. So when you have like different state, like active, inactive, the user can see the difference in your pages or in your form. So for example, if they see an error, they should have see an error like this. When the state is inactive, they can also see different content here. So this, for example, is mute, unmute, something like this. Okay. So the other principle is operable. Your website functionality can be used in different modalities, which is like we saw earlier. It can be keyboard accessible. We can use tap in by the touchscreen, something like that. And also make sure you provide enough time to the user to see your content or to read the content with enough time, because many websites, when they providing the slider or something, the slider configuration is too fast, so the user can read or can see the enough time for that slider. Another thing is avoid seizures and physical reaction. Like we saw earlier, it's like too many animation in your website. It's not good. You need to keep it down, your animation, to make it all good or great for all the user. The other thing is navigable content. So make sure your website can be navigate so its user, they knew where they are. Like if they're trying to navigate to pricing page, then you also need to mark that your web or your page is currently on the pricing page, which is you can use different color in the tab on your pages activated. And yeah, input modalities, it can be input by various beyond a keyboard like touchscreen, mouse, keyboard, etc. The other point is understandable. It means your content information or your website can be understand by its simple language. For example, you can write your caption, your wording is to the point, so make it easier to the user to read or something. And also make sure your website is predictable. Like the header is always on the top, the footer is always on the bottom. Don't make it your website. It can be like every visit page, every change the page, layout is also changes. Like when you on the home page, then the header is on the top. When you go to other somewhere else page, then the header is like going to the bottom. It's not good enough because it's not predictable. The content is not predictable, which is we need to avoid that as well. The other thing is input assistant. When user inputting like long form, they need to have input assistant. What should the input that are going to fill in? Like when you entering email, you have having the input assistant. For example, you need to validate your email using the app and blah blah blah, and then also you can provide like how long for the password, what can be used in password, what cannot to be entered in password, something like that. So that's the input assistant. And the last but not least is the robust. Robust can be your website can be accessed in different sites, like in mobile device, in smart TV, or in your smartwatch or something. Yeah, it can be accessed by different sites, screen sites. And if you check other guidelines of the WCAG based on web content accessibility guidelines, you can see more criteria in there. Yeah. So let's talk more technical right now, see in the real action in React.js. We saw already about the problems in the previous slides. Now we want to know to approach how to approach those kind of problems with the solution that we're going to see in the next slide. Okay. So the first problem that we see earlier is lack of keyboard accessibility. Okay. The keyboard accessibility, what we can do is by adding some tab index to the element or to the component that we provide. Okay. Tab index is good for the keyboard accessibility. But when using the tab index, you need to be careful in here because not tab index is always the answer. For example, if you had tab index -1, it not appear in natural tab order because the tab index -1 is good for the dialog or modal components. For example, if you have like modal or dialog in your website, tab index -1, I'm sorry, is good for that. So for example, you can use jQuery, something like that, and then using the focus, or you can also like using the tab index -1. The common way to do tab index, you can add the tab index 0. So it will be appear in natural tab order in the browser. It can be also focused by the browser in the natural tab order. So the more you adding tab index, if you have like multiple tab index, the first thing it will be appear in the natural tab order will be the least number, which is if you adding more tab index like 1 to 3, the first thing tab it will appear in the tab natural order will be the first one, and so on and so forth. So the the tab index number 2 is will be the second, third, yeah, so on and so forth. The problem that we saw also focus visibility. What we can do is adding by different states in your styling components or elements. For example, like on your button, we can add some hover focus, something like that. So when the user trying to navigate, hovering the button or the elements that they want to trying to navigate, they can now see the different, like when they hovering, oh, it's different from for them. So when they're entering, the color is now different from previous state. In React, obviously, we can use the autofocus, something like that. So when they're trying to focusing, when the user face problem that lack of autofocus in their inputs, in React, you can provide autofocus. So when they're trying to refreshing the page or entering the page for the first time, it will be focusing on something that you want trying to focus on in the first place. For example, in here, I'm trying to autofocus the password, so it will be focused in the first time, in the first place. In other method, we can also use focus with trap and hooks in React. So not only using the autofocus by the HTML, we can use approach with a React custom wrap and custom hook, something like this. We can use the wrap attribute in here, and then we assign it the input in here, the variable input, and then we use wrap, something like that. Then we call it the input to make it focus on Druya. See, it's the same, right? Yeah, the problem they see we see earlier is unclear links, unclear structure. Maybe because they see the unclear links, it maybe your website is not providing the right element to provide to see the links in the website. So make sure when you're trying to provide a links to website, use the right elements. If you want to try to provide some link, use anchor tag or anchor a tag in your HTML or in your website, not using like span or div by the element, and then you make it those span or that div looks like a link or something. Because why? Because it won't work in browser, because when you use the tag element or anchor link in your website for the links, obviously for the links, it's always show up in the link list on your browser. Also, it will work with keyboard. Okay, so anchor link or anchor tag, it obviously works with the keyboard by default in the browser. Other than that, if you're using like div or span to links, it won't work with the keyboard. And also by the default in the browser, your links can be bookmarked by the default. If you're using like anchor tag or something in your browser, in your website, can be bookmarked through the links of your anchor tag or a tags. And the other thing is unclear structure. Maybe your website, it didn't have like ambiguous section because you didn't use the semantic way to do that, to do structuring, because you use bunch of divs instead, like div for header, div for navigation. So we can see the difference in here. This is like clear section for the website. The browser, we understand if you're using the semantic element in your website. The browser can analyze your header, which is your header, and navigation, which your section, which your fit with your footer. Everything, it's work with the default browser if you're using semantic elements. Okay, so if you combine it, semantic and the div, is more good. For example, if you want to wrap your header with div, but you need to wrap it first with the header first, and then the second level in your header is you can use the div in here. So in React also they have the same thing. So in React, if we try to build your own components, it will build compiles into like this, right? From this one into this. Like when you're trying to make your own button in React, it will be transformed to something like that. Click me. So make sure when you creating your own components, make sure you type it, you write the components with the right element. Because in the browser, when you trying to make your own components, everything in the browser will be transformed into the accessibility tree, which is accessibility tree is used for people with disabilities. For example, people with vision problem, with the problem in their vision, in the visual, the way they see the website is through the accessibility tree. Okay, for people with a disability, the HTML code that we program earlier, for example, we create some components, something like that, etc. In the browser, it will be compiled to the DOM tree, something like that, and then it will be defined whether it's JS or HTML, and then it will be output to the user interface, which is we can see in the browser using our monitor or something like that, or something else. But in the user with visual disabilities, The journey is not end there because the DOM has to be transfiled, okay, has to be converted into another way, which is they need to transform into the accessibility tree, so they can read, the user can read, the browser can read, they can read directly from the accessibility tree using a native API in the browser. Okay, we can use they can use the technology they want, like screen readers or something, touchscreen, something like that. Yeah, with the screen readers, they will provide the read API native by the accessibility tree. So the screen reader will only looking for the accessibility tree, not using the DOM tree. So for example, if you want to play in your browser, you can also like check in the inspect element, and then you can see the accessibility section in the bottom of your inspect in Chrome DevTools. So you can see this is the accessibility tree that I mentioned before. This generic is means something like div, and then banner, navigation, list item. Then we have like area label, dark mode, something like that. So the other thing is we see is the same kind of lack of visual. Maybe in the screen reader, it will be something like blah, 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 check. Well, this is not good. What we can do is we wrap onto the label. So when the screen reader read will be like something, receive promotional offers, check box. Receive promotional offers input, check box. And then they're trying to announce the state and then the type of the checkbox of the input itself. Or you can use the ID, then using the label for something like that. The other thing that we can do is when you dealing with the titles, okay, the common mistake that we see is the changes of titles. When changing pages, the title is not updated. So in React, you can also use the React element. So it will be change the title to customize by yourself. In other frameworks also, you can use dynamic title in Angular or Vue. You can easily change the title as well. So make sure also the title on the website is always updated based on your page that you're trying to visit by the user. So the other thing approach we can fix the problem, the solution is WAI-ARIA. WAI-ARIA means Web Accessibility Initiative, Accessibility Rich Internet Application. Let's imagine if you're trying to make your own components, okay, but there's no like semantic ways or there's no semantic element to do that. What you can do is like you build your own custom components from different elements. For example, if you want to make some toggle button or switch box, something like that, what you can do is using div, and then you make up those div into a switch box or checkbox. So yeah, this WAI-ARIA is designed for those components. WAI-ARIA is designed for those components. It can be used to different elements. For example, like this, you can add some role and area check state to the checkbox. So the screen reader now see the div, that those div is the checkbox. Because if you didn't add some like semantic WAI-ARIA to those custom element or custom component you created, the screen readers and the accessibility tree only tell you it just div or it just text. But if you like assign the role WAI-ARIA in here, you can see the different screen reader will tell you this will be checkbox and the name is receive promotional offers they label this, and then the state of that checkbox will be like check or not check that, something like that. So the under the hoods how area works is when the accessibility tree is only scanning by the DOM with the area before it transform converted to the accessibility tree, the DOM will be telling the accessibility tree and scan it first if there's like area or something in the element of their DOM, and then the DOM will be compared to the accessibility tree and then tell the accessibility like, hey, this div is this div is a button. So make sure treat this div as a button. And then after that DOM telling to the accessibility tree like that, the accessibility tree, okay, got it. I will treat this div as a button. And then that's why before the DOM transform to the accessibility, it will be like telling and pause for the moment, see if there's like area WAI-ARIA or something attribute to tell to the accessibility user before they transform or see to the user. In the React, also we have the same thing. We can approach with the abstracting components. When you want to creating dynamic component in your component, you can use the as in here as prop. So later when you want to build dynamic element or component in your website, you can use as props in here. For example, you can now heading level in heading 1 in here, and then you can also change like heading 2, etc. We can see in the real demo after this. So yeah, bear with me to see in here. So yeah, for example, in here, we adding like dynamic style and SFE will come to. And then in the browser, it will tell you that this is paragraph element, which is cool. The other thing of the area, if we can use the area label by, it may combining two different elements, different components into one. So the screen reader will be telling to the user combining, like for example, man t-shirt and then shop now, something like that. So if you didn't use this area label by, if they will telling the user with the screen reader different font, I mean like man t-shirt, and then the user need to tab or swipe to the other button, and then we'll be like telling after the screen reader tell the first one. So when using the area label by, it will be combining directly from the first to the second one. It will be like seamless to the user with screen readers. Also, you can use the area described by. It's also good for the input assistant. If you have an error or any input assistant in your form, something like that, you can use the area described by. There's a lot other area you can check, but this is so messed up. Who wants to learn from those kind of diagrams? But yeah, I make it simple for you so you can just scan or learn more the area guide in here. So let's move on to how you audit the accessibility in your website. So the first, we can use the manual check, and using the automated check using the lighthouse or wave in your browser. If you use the manual check, you can check this cool extension in the browser. I prefer using the Chrome instead of other browser because Chrome is just different, built different for everything. You just work with the Chrome, but I don't know. This extension has really helped me when you're building a website from scratch, and then manual check for the accessibility aspect. You can use the screen reader for the see how when user visit your website, navigate your website, then you can turn on your screen reader if there's telling the right element, the right components, the right syntax, the right element for the website. You can just check the screen reader. And then the other one is accessibility insight for the web, which is good also. It can be using this extension. This extension can scan through your website and then see if there's insight for that for your website. It will telling you like so many things that can be you to fix for you. And the other thing is DevTools, web accessibility testing. It also can be, this is like checker for developers, tester, anyone, designer in Chrome as well. If you use this thing, it will be telling you something like that. So it will be like telling if your website is good enough, the total issue in your website will be telling how many issue in your website, and based on accessibility aspect. The other thing is accessibility linter, which is you can combine with your Visual Studio Code or your code editor. I use this for my Visual Studio Code. It works well, everything great. Imagine if you didn't have enough resources for your project. Let's say you didn't have enough resource for your budget, for your teams. You can always use this UI component library that already support accessibility. You don't have to build everything from scratch. Like you had to add some tab index, everything in your component, your element. You can always use this great component libraries that you can check. Everything works well. Now it's already worked with. To also use the standard of accessibility, it can be used to any of the input modalities like keyboard. It also works with everything. But yeah, you can just check those kind of library from Chakra UI to Material, Bootstrap, Adobe Spectrum to Radix. So yeah, this kind of website that I used earlier with the Spectrum, React Spectrum, which is good. Maybe I will demonstrate in after the presentation. Okay, now we're moving to the last part, which is the unit testing. When you want to try to testing your component, and then you want to also have accessibility aspect in your testing, you can also follow along tips from this one. So in order to test your website using the accessibility aspect, you can get rid of get by text, get by ID, something like that. Right now, you can change by testing using get by role to find the role of button and then name document. So it will tell the component. It should be testing get by the screen and then by role of the button. Then we see the name of the button is dark mode. Then we expect that button to have attribute area pressed through, which is quite really accessible for the unit testing. I'm using unit testing library from React and also using the Jest. You can also use the VTest or any testing library, any other testing library like VTest or Jest, Vest, something. The other thing you can also if you have multiple buttons, you can use the get all by role, something like that. Yeah. It's also working well with the role heading, something like this. If you're trying to see the heading of level 2, we can just get by role heading level 2. So when the heading is now changing the text, it won't fail anymore because you actually testing those text by its role, not by its text. So if you're combining with the X linter earlier, you can really great for you. So when you forgot everything or forget the accessibility attribute in your element or your component, it will be tells you there's something error in your component or HTML. For example, I didn't provide the alternative content in here. They will throwing an error accidentally ensure image has element of alternative, something like that, which is good, quite good, quite good. Or if you work with React as well, you can use the Aslin plugin JSX LE accessibility. You can this is also good. It's the same like Xlinter, but it's specifically to JSX format. So if your component using the .jsx, you can use with this as well. The other thing we can use is testing with Cypress. This is cool. Actually, this is using combined Xcore and then CypherX. This is so much better. I mean, like, I've already tested this, and which is quite good. You can describe and it contains something like this. You can use the Cypress like this as well. Cypress visit your website and then inject the X of the accessibility, and then we will check the entire page for accessibility issue, something like this. And then we will tell if there's an error in your website, it will be tells you the error itself. See? Wow, this is cool, right? So yeah, what all benefits from all of this, what we can reflect it to our movement, our what we can do earlier. The benefit is obviously increasing the audience by making your website more inclusive, okay? And it is also a better user experience. Yeah, obviously you can get the better different view from the user experience earlier. And also it can be improved search engine optimization. And the fourth is obviously this is the morally the right thing to do for make the website is accessible for everyone. And obviously it also can be avoid potential discrimination lawsuit. So in case in different country, they like putting this accessibility things is in serious matters. So if you in those country and you didn't provide enough for your website, can be potentially a lawsuit discrimination. But yeah, before we end our presentation, let's take a look first to what we can see in here. So we already built some React simple CRUD application. If we see in here, I already built like components, that dynamic component that we see in the presentation. So in here, using this one, you can see we adding as in here, and then we can import the dynamic component in here. So if we try to run it, it will be like something like this. So I'm trying to run this application. So I built this using the React Spectrum. The React Spectrum is using the component from the Adobe Spectrum, which is quite very good. It's from Adobe and it's work with all the accessibility things in the key, in the button, in the other components. They really work with the accessibility, which is cool. So yeah, wait a second, it's really still loading. Okay, now we're starting the development. Now if you see in here, let's take a look. The testing that I already mentioned before. Here, I already used the tests in here. See, this is which is not good for the accessibility aspect in your testing. Which is more good is using the raw by get by raw in here. Okay. Oops. I think now it's better. Okay. Now if you see in here in the DOM, As you can see, there's here it's just the H as a H1 heading level 1, right? If we try to change those dynamic and we can change it as for example, we want to this H heading level 1, we want to change this as a span. You can also like using this as span. Now they'll be changing those to span as well. Right, second, see, it's also changed now, or which is cool. In React, you can use dynamic component to use this as span. So it's also the concept works the same like WAI-ARIA, or just you can say it area. All right, and this is which is cool using the React spectrum. You can also see in here, it will also work with the tab. So if I stick key in here, see, there's tab in here, see, there's tab in here. If you also try to using the screen reader, it will also tells you the screen reader as well. Yeah, just cool, huh? Screen readers also, it also works well with the screen reader. For example, in here, I will adding some extension and then work it with that.
Chrome box alert.
Okay.
Alert. Add data. Title.
See?
Add data.
See?
SD set aside.
Sorry.
Title. Add data. Button. Header. List with 4 items.
See?
About. Dark mode. Button.
This just works well with all the
Alert.
kind of
Extensions. Close.
all components works with the accessibility. But yeah, that's our demo today. So resource in order to learn, if you want to learn more, you can check those links. You can see the W3 org or in Google Chrome. Also, you can check, or you can check the LI 101 development. Or if you lazy with all these links, I made the repository. I put all the links on those links to this repository. You can always check on my repository. I made it public. So yeah, it is easy to follow along. And in summary, accessibility is not just how you adding some alternative text to your image, adding some type index to your div. It's more than that. It's beyond than that. Accessibility is really making sure about the content and the website of your website itself. Really making sure your content and the website itself it can be used, can be accessed to various environments and abilities. So it's our job, our homework is not done yet. There's plenty of things that we should do more, explore more. One of those is the accessibility itself. So yeah, thank you for the attention. If you want to connect once again with me, you can follow along this links, social media. So yeah, thank you for joining my session. See you in the next conference.